Welcome to 843 TV. I'm your host, Lisa Richardson, and today we're coming to you from the Beaufort City Hall. We'll be hearing about all the exciting economic and development projects that are going on right here in the town of Beaufort. Joining us today is our first guest, Ms. Kathy Todd. She is the City Finance Director. Also joining us is Bill Prokop. He is the City Manager in the area. Joining us also is Neil Puglisi. He's the Director of Public Projects and Facilities. So stick around and join us for this episode of 843 TV, where communities come to speak. "843 TV, where Bluffton comes to speak.
Where Spring Island comes to speak.
Where Hilton Head Island comes to speak.
Where Beaufort comes to speak.
"843 TV,
where communities come to speak.
Welcome to 843 TV, coming to you today here from the City Conference Planning Room over in the Beaufort area in the building, municipal building. Here today to talk to us all about the budget and all kind of things are Bill and Kathy. Good morning. Good to see you both.
Good morning.
Budget. No one ever wants to really talk about that, but it's very important and necessary to do. So let's talk about, I'll start with Bill. Give us an overview of the upcoming budget. What are some of the high points that will help the city be able to do what it needs to have done?
I think the key high points of our budget this year is to provide, number one, the public safety needs of the entire city, which is geographically a very large city, but population-wise confined to 13,000 people. But this covers our police and fire, it's number one. Number two is that we have many programs in place for the economic vitality to increase the economic development activities and to be able to create jobs that would create higher earnings for people to be able to live here and afford the apartments, etc. Coupled with that is the affordable housing that we want to provide to people that live here. And the third is to make sure that our infrastructure is taken care of and is safe to use. Those were the three or four major areas that this budget addresses.
Sure, and sounds like all very important and equally as important. One sort of affects the other. And so speaking of budget, this is your department, is that right?
That's right.
It seems that it's a very balanced budget, which is certainly a positive thing. Explain to us how you were able to make that work.
There were several factors actually that played into that role. One is that our TIF 2 district closed at the end of this fiscal year, and there were taxes associated with that TIF 2 district that now will go into the general fund. So that gave a very large, significant bump in revenues to the general fund.
Explain what that TIF 2 budget is for those who may not be aware.
The TIF 2 district is a special district that's created. The county shared in it, the school district and the city. And as growth occurred, there was a base year back in 2001, 2002, and that base year kind of froze the assessed value. And then as assessed values increased, that increased tax from those increased assessed values went into the special TIF 2 district to be used. Boundary streets construction is part of the benefit of those TIF 2 dollars.
Okay.
And now that is closing, and so the city's normal tax on the assessed value in that district is part of the general fund now, going into fiscal year 18. So that added about $650,000 to our revenue. Plus, we're doing a capital lease program rather than spending the cash on our infrastructure needs, like Bill was indicating. We're going to do capital lease, so that added some revenues to our base, and then we have kind of a savings plan in our fund balance for specific things like equipment and redevelopment and land, and so we're pulling some resources from those savings accounts to help to balance the budget.
This help with some capital things, it sounds like.
Helps with the capital needs without increasing the millage rate and or fees.
Great, that's probably good news to those residents, isn't it? And we'll go back to you, Bill. How do you connect the new budget to the city's overall strategic plan?
I think I'd answer it in reverse. The strategic plan was the basis we established our budget. Our strategic plan has 5 major goals. And as we even have in this room, every department has the strategic plan poster in their department for all employees to understand what we're trying to do. And number one is we want to create economic development. So in our budget, in our redevelopment fund, monies were allocated for several different redevelopment activities, including marketing. The second was a good communications plan, which is not necessarily a money one, but making sure that we're proactive, more out exactly what we're doing today, telling people what's coming rather than reporting what happened.
Right. Getting the word out in advance is very important and certainly very appreciated with the community. They want to know what's happening.
Exactly.
Good.
The third is we're developing or expanding our infill, and that means in the downtown area, particularly what's called the Northwest Quadrant in Beaufort, which is from the downtown out to Boundary Street. Many homes have been in disrepair or just left vacant for numbers of years. So we have a program to take and revitalize that whole area with incentives and waiver of some of the fees, et cetera, they'd normally have. So that's been also built into our budget. Affordable housing is another that we wanted to be able to create workforce housing so that teachers, police officers, firemen can afford to live in Beaufort, do not have to commute, or people working in the hotels, they don't have to commute 20, 30 miles. So these are the goals that our whole budget was established at, and every department has those. They have to refer whatever they're doing in their department. If it's the police department, for example, one of our second goal is communications. Well, we have a very effective community resources program with our officers. So they're not just out arresting people, but they're playing with the kids. They're making sure their bicycles are repaired. There's a very good. We even have now a dog in the police department that's a friendly dog. So when let's say family dispute goes on and the police have to have a family come in, the kids can sit down and there's a little dog that they can just play with and just help them relax. So our whole budget was really tied to the five strategic goals that we set.
And I love how you use the word revitalize, by the way, and that's a great positive word. And real quick, as we wrap up this segment, Kathy, do you anticipate with all these changes and all these new improvements that local revenue to continue to increase in the next 5 years?
Well, we've seen a modest growth over the years, in particular with residential growth, and we anticipate that to continue. Where we've seen some growth is in the commercial area, and so that we potentially will see some benefits from that commercial growth going into the next few years.
Okay, great. Stay right here. We'll be back with more 843 TV from City of Beaufort.